let's start with Mr. Know-It-All.
Love it.
There you go.
You can blame me for this pick because I had to go old school.
Dude, I love. We added this 2 shows ago, and it hit the hardest. This is one of the heaviest ones they've got.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Mr. Know-It-All, I have no time to waste. My mouth, it spews pure intellect, and I've such eloquent taste. Yep, yep.
Say hi.
Oh, all right. Excellent.
It's hard with no other instruments going on. This one's tough on bass, right? Alex was supposed to edit out my mistakes, too.
Single takes what makes it exciting.
Sure.
They call me Mr. Know-It-All. I have the aged wine. Oh, I could tell such wondrous tales if I could find the time. I must be Mr. Know-It-All, for ideas are coming bound. For I am Mr. Know-It-All. Let's spread the word around.
One of the best solos too. It's got that pitch shifter that hits right here.
Sure.
It's incredible every time. I told Scott, I was like, just leave that shifter on the whole set. I don't care. I want to hear it.
So when you're not rehearsing a lot as a group, we talked a little bit about the Four Horsemen. They said they never rehearsed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But for a band that is so precise, how challenging is that?
It just depends, right? So, I mean, look, I think when you got to learn this stuff, you got to know what to play coming in. You can't just like come into the room and try to figure it out, right? So keeping it close to the record means that as long as you can play along with the song, you should be able to play along with the band. The biggest thing we struggle with is probably getting the tempos to a place that we feel comfortable, because there are some times where we want to take it a little faster or we want to take it a little slower. And Primus does a lot of shifting of tempos where things will just jump or speed up, and that's the kind of stuff. And Loomer is so precise with that stuff. Sometimes I'll feel like he's going too slow, and then he'll be like, no, we're right. And then he'll go back and play it. I'm like, damn it, he's right. But things like that, those are the things that we pretty much work on. I mean, it's funny to hear you say that about the Four Horsemen, though. I love to hear that. It just you don't hear that a lot, so it makes me feel a little better about our lack of practice.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If you can play it by yourself in your bedroom, you should be able to play it with the band. It's no real difference. So.
Yeah, that was amazing reveal because they were really rehearsing individually in different states.
Yes.
Literally different, very expansive geographic locations and occasionally coming together.
So that band that I think Alex mentioned earlier, Psyopus, that I used to play in, crazy technical, grindcore metal band, and they all lived up in New York. I obviously lived down here, and it was the same thing. We would literally play along with the records and show up to a warehouse every tour,
right,
and we would practice for couple hours and hit the road.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
So, and look, I'd be lying if I said that sometimes it was like, we maybe should have practiced a little more. But, when you're on the road for 2 weeks, by the third show, you're in the zone. Right.
Sure,
so,
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, with this stuff, when you're only playing a show every, couple weeks or every couple months, you kind of lose some of that. So,
right.
Sure.
But yeah, so.
All right, so I got to ask. So, you had a reaction, I noticed, when you heard yourself with vocals, and you're saying you're newer to vocals.
Yeah.
You still have that uncomfortability?
So not as much. It's more weird because when Alex and I recorded that, I asked him, I was like, do we want me to, sing along with this? Because it's kind of disingenuous if I don't. I mean, I'm supposed to be singing along. So,
sure.
But as a front man, you'll see me when I play. I'll close my eyes sometimes because I'm not used to like looking at the crowd, right? Most of the vocals
Right.
I do with my other bands are usually backups. So I'm usually just kind of a texture kind of guy, or I have a higher voice. So a lot of the time in my cover groups, they'll make me do all the pop punk stuff
Sure.
just because I can get up there.
Right.
But I'm not typically, I've never been a front man. And when you're in a band with Greg, it's very difficult to be a front man because he's got enough front for all of us. So even in Mod, though, back in the day, I don't think I did any vocals at all. I think I had one scream on our second record, maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
you did play the
Yeah,
wind
no,
instrument
third
of the
record,
slide
yeah.
whistle.
Well, if you count American Deaf Kids Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do a lot of. I just got into vocals maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It's definitely fun. So even for the Primus thing, like I said, like we try to keep it close. So Les has got just a regular mic that he uses, and then he also sings through what's called a bullet mic, which is a harmonica mic. And I had one of those for our first 2 gigs, and I was like, man, there's got to be something cooler than this. It kind of sounds like you're in like a old timey radio.
Sure.
And I found this company, Placid Audio. They make these carbon phones, and I bought this thing, and we did it at our last show at Brightbox out in Winchester, and literally makes you sound like you're at like a grocery store. And it's, like pick up on aisle 6. Like, and I get real carried away, like before the sound check. I'm just like, your car is being towed, but it sounds really cool. And if you throw some reverb and some effects on it, it can sound pretty cool. So actually, Greg and I were talking last night about, different vocal processors, because I've been really into obviously bass gear for years,
Right.
but the vocal thing is new, so it's unexplored territory there. So.
Sure.
On the Fur, how often are you guys playing?
What are you
She's
pointing
like,
at?
I want to be on video.
Oh no, you can't see her. You're too far
It
off.
just looks
To
like
me,
you're
you were pointing
at
at
me.
Alex.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Who was booking all of this? So I was looking to Alex for the schedule. Now we see her. There you go. Now So you have multiple booking agents, Greg. Is that what you're saying?
We have multiple booking agents, from ostriches to girlfriend to, random entities. No, we just kind of, word of mouth, or just, meet bands that might have us piggyback on a show or something or whatever. We set up our own shows. But yeah, we don't take it too seriously, to be honest.
And so, Greg, like for you also, like what is your background then? Obviously, you talked about playing in a lot of bands, but like have you been mainly an instrumentalist? Have you mainly been a vocalist? Like what is really kind of like the lead into what you're doing now?
I mean, yeah, I was never a vocalist. I actually started playing guitar when I was 6. I started with like classical guitar.
Greg's a killer guitar player, by the way.
And learned like the whole Suzuki method. What's that?
I said you're a killer guitar player.
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
putting
You're
that out there
getting
for
some
them.
No, get out of there, Michael. Ridiculous. But no, yeah, started playing guitar and then just like Mikey said, when he came to see us play, I was, in pop punk bands, kind of a, fan of NoFX and anything that came off of Fat Records, Strung Out, Blink, all that stuff. And came out and saw us play, and like we used to have a singer, which I don't even think I talked to Mikey about, but
I never
eventually
knew that. Who was that?
One of those things where it's like you just have to step up and be like, okay, well, I'll just sing the parts, So it kind of started there, but to be honest, like I really enjoy the separation. Like I don't like doing guitar and vocals, which is why in the Deftones tribute we don't do the songs where Chino would play the second guitar part. We try to fulfill that through either the keys or whatever, because we have like our whole own system. We don't play with amps or anything like that. Like we have our own setup and mix. We all do in-ears and then just give them tails to the house.
Okay.
Just to make it easy. And it's nice because then you don't have to lift anything.
Right.
Greg and I'll have a different argument about that later, because that's not my life. Greg tried to get me into that life. I'm an amp guy. That's all Greg. He's like, hey, you should like just not bring
You're just
stuff
really
on the
passionate
stage.
about 8x10s
Like
and
no,
stairs.
absolutely. More cabs, more
Well,
rock.
especially if you have to travel out of town. Who wants to bring an Ampeg 8x12?
Yeah.
I
Me.
mean, Jesus.
Me.
Yeah.
Because you want the speaker tones puking, and there is a certain sound to that. There is a certain sound to that, and you can't ever achieve it digitally because sound is air. So you have to have that speaker cone working with the magnet coil and everything, and that creates a different sound. But when it's like, we're just doing this or that, I tell you, the hardest thing with Deftones is the music is actually pretty simple. It's orchestrated really nicely, which is what makes it sound good altogether. But every damn song is in some insane tuning.
Yeah.
So
They
like
do,
our
yeah.
guitar player has like 5 or 6 guitars that he has to switch through.
Right.
We constantly are using different tuning things with processors. And that's the most challenging thing, is just like, why couldn't they just record an album where it's like in this tuning the whole way through? Why does each song have to be some obscure ass Simon and Garfunkel tuning, that no one it drives me nuts. Like that's probably the worst part is, and then you have to pick a set based on that. Like
Sure.
when do we change the guitars? Can you play it on a 6? Can you play it on a 7? Can you play it on an 8?
Mm-hmm.
It gets rough. And when you don't have Deftones funding, where you can have 12 guitars in
Sure.
some like tour boat where you can achieve that, it gets rough. It gets rough.
Yeah, I'll tell you the same thing with the Primus stuff. We have to set our set list up with all the basses because there's a 4-string, there's a 6-string fretted.
Sure.
I use an upright for a couple songs, and then there's the 6-string fretless. So everything has to be blocked together, and if it's not, I would just be switching instruments every song.
Sure.
So you'll see that at the show. It's there's usually some banter in between while I change instruments, just because there's no way around it.
Right.
So.
Well, you were going to see it more than in the show because we have a 6-string clip on your 6-string
yeah.
clip of My Name is Mud.
That's a good one. There you go.
We can roll that one out too.
There you go.
And that might be more familiar to people.
6-string Mikey.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh boy.
Here we go. Alex wouldn't let me turn distortion on at his house.
It's a very pretty bass too, by the way.
It's very cool. It's made
Yeah.
by a guy named Rick Link. They're called Beardley Customs. They're out of Pittsburgh. He does awesome work.
And he made your 4-string as well?
He's made all 3 of them.
My name is Mud. Not to be confused with Billy Jack or Peter Dennis. My name is Mud.
Yeah, Greg
It's
singing.
always been. Cause I'm the most boring sons of bitches you ever see. I dressed in blue, yes, navy blue from head to toe. I'm rather drab except my patent shoes.
What Greg hasn't said is Primus is actually his favorite band of all time. No jokes.
Really?
Yep.
Most of the time.
Bigger fan than me.
Except today my feet are trodden on by this friend of mine.
Yeah, that's my favorite band of all
Rude as
time.
hell. I gotta get him in the ground.
Is it a full kind of
before
yin
he
yang
starts
thing? You like
to
that towards the
smell.
Deftones then?
So I'm a huge Deftones fan too. He's been a Deftones fan since even in our band in high school. Most of the parts that sounded Deftone-y, he wrote. And we would always joke around like it was like, who wrote that? It's like, oh, there's a ninth.
Tony, I like it.
It's like, oh, there's a ninth chord in there.
I don't know.
It was Greg.
It's kind of Deftone.
It's all Deftone. I actually found an old hard drive. When like you're rooting through stuff and like you find an old, you're like, man,
Jesus
what's on this?
Christ.
And you just play that roulette game of God, what's on this? And there was some old music on there, and one of them was a song that he wrote. Probably when he was like mad at his parents when he was 16 or something. But, I played it and I actually sent it to him and I was like, dude, I remember this song. Like, and this is so Deftones. It's just so Deftones. But yeah, he's been into that since day one. And yeah, we've been huge Deftones fans forever. So I think the first album I heard by them was Around the Fur. I didn't have Adrenaline because I skipped that. I went back and got it. But
Yep.
I'll never forget when White Pony came out. That was in
yeah.
high school. And that was, I had the
Dude,
red
that
CD.
White Pony
Yes.
changed
It was
everything.
huge,
Sure
right?
did.
So,
It
and
really
I think
did.
I saw them.
Sonically, recording-wise, everything.
Yep.
I think they're the band, and I've seen them. I I didn't go to a ton of shows back in the day. I probably should have, but I think I saw them more than anyone. I think I saw them 5 or 6 times. And like Greg said earlier, there's some times where you'd see them and they would just blow you away. I mean, they were unbelievable.
Bro,
and then
you're
there's
just like, what do you? Yeah.
and then there's other times where it's like, I don't know. And again, I don't know enough about their history to know why they might have just had an off night or something like that. But there were shows that were unbelievable. I think the worst one I saw was at Nation. You guys remember that club, Nation?
Yeah, you saw him there. Nice.
Yeah. I think it was.
Remember that was my my Pac that Sub Method band played a Battle of the Bands at
Yeah,
Nation
of course.
before
It's
it
now,
changed. Yeah.
it's now a parking lot for the Washington Nationals.
Yep.
But Nation was fun.
And oddly enough, right before it changed to Nation, it used to be called Capitol Ballroom.
Yep.
And the
Was it
last
Ballroom?
show that
Yeah.
I saw at Capitol Ballroom was Primus with Blink 182, the Aquabats, and
That's
the
right.
Alcoholics.
That's right. I remember you mentioning that.
Date yourself even more, Jeff.
I know.
What was it called before that?
Like, that's
What's
the
that, who?
weirdest bill
Oh,
ever.
What was the name before that?
What of?
Capitol Ballroom.
Oh,
Before
yeah.
Capitol Ballroom.
Yeah, I mean that's
Come on,
that's
Tracks.
where
I was about to say that. I knew it was coming to me. I was going to
Yep.
say Zax, but I knew it wasn't
Zax.
Zax.
It was Tracks. Yeah.
Yes, I do remember Tracks. Yeah,
Definitely
yeah, we made some
before
runs
my
down
time.
there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Zax was Jax.
That was gonna say, wasn't that Jax? Yeah. You know, I thought didn't they like just try to reopen? Like
You know
a
what?
They
month
are.
ago? Are they back?
No, I don't
No.
think it's a full reopening, but they're
Okay.
doing some stuff.
It was like a pop-up bar is what it
Yeah, it
was.
was a
Yeah.
banquet hall when I checked there in September.
That
Yeah.
place was so fun.
But they
They
have
made
another.
it seem like they were going to open back up. but
That's what I
really it was-
thought.
They were
Yeah.
doing a pop-up night.
Well, they have another pop up coming up because the Road Ducks are playing.
Okay.
I think it's in March.
Okay.
My
Yeah, I know.
saw it win at Nation. I caught the Foo Fighters at Nation.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's incredible.
That was
I
'98.
usually sold Jay Nedry and the Road Ducks like every piece of live sound equipment that they've had for the last. It's so
Yeah,
sad. I even told them, I was like, "We've come full circle. I used to hang out in your parking lot asking for shows. Now you're coming and
Right.
asking me for deals."
Yeah, I think I saw the Deftones and Glassjaw at Nation in like 2000, 99.
Wow.
And I was so bummed because I actually went to see Glassjaw. I don't know if you guys remember those guys. They were
Yep.
their singer was just phenomenal, and it was one of those, I got to see this guy live, see if he can do it. And I got there late because the
Daryl
subway
Palumbi.
was running behind, and I only caught their last 2 songs. I was very sad, but they sounded unbelievable for those 2 songs. So,
Usually,
but yeah, that was,
remember you used to pay somebody like to
he's
park.
an amazing singer.
Oh, I was gonna say that kind of went in and out, Greg. We missed you.
he said he was an amazing singer.
Oh,
Oh, my
gotcha.
bad.
He was.
Dogs in the face. I was just gonna say Daryl was like one of the best damn vocalists. Like he was a huge inspiration on me as well as Chino. But yeah, Daryl Palumbi from Glassjaw is just nuts. Like he's
That album
insane.
was-
Stuff he can do with his vocals.
That album was game changer for like guys growing up with that stuff. You heard that, you're like, oh my god, because
Yeah.
they were like one of the first guys to
Dude,
So-
you remember our first guitar player, Josh, was obsessed with Glassjaw.
huge Glassjaw fan. I think they're coming back. They're
my
like, I think they're
God.
doing a gig in Jersey, and he actually texted. It was them and Poison the Well, and he was like, "Do you want to go see this?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm
Dude,
18
Poison the
again.
Well.
Let's go." Like,
Dude, Mikey, do you remember that time when because you were talking about like how we used to go to shows or play shows on the weekends from school? Do you remember when we went to that show at Jack's with I want to say there was Vision of Disorder, Poison the Well, and Lamb of God.
yes,
And remember Randy wrote "fuck you" on my forehead with Sharpie?
Yes.
I got to have music theory class the next day.
now hold on. Was that? And there's so many Jack shows, it all becomes a blur, and I'm sure this happens to all of us. Was that the one with? Did Cryptopsy headline that? Was that because there was a time period during that early 2000s they were trying to blend all those kind of hardcore bands with
Yeah.
the death metal bands, but I do
could have
remember. Yeah, I think Cryptopsy headlined that. And I think we saw them for like 5 minutes. I was
like Dying Fetus shows and all
right,
kinds of stuff.
right. I was too confused. I was like, it was one of those like Back to the Future things. It was like, you're a little too young for this, but in 10 years you're going to be there. I was like, yeah.
Bro, do you remember that time? Do you remember that time when we went and saw fucking 36 Crazy Fists? It was like their first show on the East Coast.
Yes.
And we made Brock write in Sharpie in the bathroom, like Brock from 36 Crazy Fists was here. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Jack?
that was with God, who was on that show? Was it Factory 81? There was some other new metal bands. That was a super new show. 1 Minute Silence might have been. Oh God, this is terrible. You're making me relive all these painful shows.
Dude, you remember that one time when we played with fucking Vanilla Ice's new metal band when he was doing like his
God.
kind of
We
like
played with Vanilla Ice twice.
Really?
Twice we played with Vanilla Ice.
Wow.
How was the
Dude,
Ice Bound?
you gotta
That's a
tell the story.
factoid right there. Yeah.
So he had
Mikey, you gotta tell him the story when I went up to him and I was like, "Give me the line."
Man,
Give
he
me
got
the
really
line.
weird. So Vanilla Ice, we opened up for him twice. The first one was one of
Wow.
those Jack shows where like you got to sell all the tickets, and like we sold all of them, and it was one of those like, yes, we sold all these tickets. We're awesome, and so the whole show is packed, and so the running joke was like, well, where's Vanilla Ice? Like, this is the whole thing. Like, we got to see this. And they were like, no, he doesn't show up until like right before he goes on. So Jack's, you guys remember the back, there was that parking lot in the back where the trailers used to park. And we waited out there for him like fangirls. And I don't think anyone was really a Vanilla Ice fan. It was more like, we just got to see this guy. So I think his VH1 behind the music had just come out. So it was like, yeah. So Rob Van Winkle is his name. So he came out and he drove up. And he got out of his car or whatever, and it was one of those like, you're all starstruck, like, oh my God, it's Vanilla Ice, that's awesome. And Greg, Greg, you can tell it. I mean, you started just rambling stuff at him, like God knows what you said. I'm sure he doesn't know what you said, but you rambled something at him and scared him. But the first show he did was solid. He had his band with him, and it was very Limp Bizkit-y, but he was fun. He had the crowd going. But his second one we did with them, he just had DJs. And let me tell you, that did not hit as hard. Just him and two DJs doing this. It was just like, Rob, like, no, we're not going to, no, not
Did you
today.
get on first name basis? You call him Rob?
No, I think he did, because he was like, when he pulled up, he was just being a dick and like, Rob, what's going on? And he was like, whoa, like, is this guy going to attack me or something? Like, so, yeah, that was.
We just didn't give a fuck, man.
Well, so I was in this band long before I met Greg. The band he tried out for, we were called Otherhood, and rap metal at its finest. And like, I was much younger. I was 16 or 17. These dudes were all 20s, 30s, and we opened for Vanilla Ice too, because I guess the only band that was coming to Jackson in the 2000s was Vanilla Ice. So, but I'd never forget our singer came out on stage, and I'm sure he was just blasted drunk, but he came out on stage and put Vanilla Ice on his shoulders, and I think the dude was pretty scared, and it was one of those like, do I call security or do I play it cool and just let this go and see how this pans out? And he let it go, and it was cool, and then he put him down, and he got off stage. But yeah, I think I've played with Vanilla Ice 3 times, and I don't know if that's a good thing to tell people or if that's yeah, I don't know.
Real, Sean. These are the reels. These are the reels we're cutting out.
That's right. That's right. It's the stuff you cut out later, like me admitting to playing with Vanilla Ice multiple times.
Excellent.
Well, you forgot that the thing that Micah was getting to was the best line. I literally, after I was rambling to him, I was like, "Give me the line, give me the line," and I wouldn't stop until he goes, "Drop with the zero and get with the hero." That's all I wanted to fucking hear. Oh man,
Alex, I got to kick over to you because you do a podcast also.
Yeah, I just started a new one. I'm trying to kind of finding the format over this last month called Next Week in Nova, where just for flyering for this show, I kind of came up with the idea of each week I go through and I make a list of every show happening at every venue in Northern Virginia and DC and some in Maryland.
Sure.
And then I just try to go through and see what has an audience of stuff that might like the show that I'm doing. This is a thing I used to do when I was booking in high school and college. And I thought, I can't make all of these shows, and they're not necessarily all for me.
Yep.
And not everybody might like the show I'm booking this month. But this seems like a cool way to kind of bring an audience together in one place. Like there used to be a website growing up called fear.com
Oh my God.
that had like a big spreadsheet of just all the shows coming up in the area. And that did so much for just like, because I used to be at like 5 to 6 shows a week when I was a teenager, and just passing out flyers and just hanging out, seeing friends band or playing myself. So just trying to like hit the ground running, getting that going again. So this is my third show back.
Excellent.
Okay.
So Kevin and I, we've done a game about that because you can't make all the shows, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we turned it into a would you rather. You know what I mean? Like on the options of that weekend, because it also has to do with funds too, right? Like the different ticket prices.
Yeah.
So like what decisions are you going to
That's
make?
also fascinating to look at because
Right.
there's be all these artists that are just totally outside my wheelhouse of what I listen to, and I'm like, this pop star from Iran has selling $400 tickets at the
Right,
Birchmere,
right.
And you're like, it must be onto something. Like he's selling out,
Right.
Ticket
Right.
prices are insane.
Yeah.
My kids come to me asking me to go to these shows, like the Taylor Swift stuff.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I want to get like a third mortgage on my house to get to this.
Well,
one
and
show.
even the Black Sabbath, the big reunion
yeah,
show,
right.
and they're claiming that they didn't use dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
But
What
people-
were the tickets? I didn't see the prices. How
well,
bad were they?
Someone said he got nosebleed seats for like £700,
Yeah.
and then within 20 minutes after he bought his tickets, this was some post I saw on social media, it was 4 times that amount.
believe it.
for the
Wow.
same
It's
seats.
nuts.
So they were absolutely using dynamic pricing.
And that's I heard 4 figures all along with that too, like
Yeah.
up to 7,000.
So
is what-
when you say that, is it like when you're trying to like buy airline tickets, like Skyscanner, where like it has the cookie where each time your browser goes back to it, it knows you're coming back and charges you more?
No, I think this is what Ticketmaster's doing, where as the tickets, the amount of people trying to buy the tickets, they elevate the price.
it's like
So
like
if
the
you had
tolls,
if
like
you
the
had
one
front
with
row
the
seats
toll
on the
road,
floor,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
uh-huh.
like $40 at you know
When you get
they
into
list that,
HOV.
but yeah, then
Yeah.
people start buying all these tickets. They're like, oh, now we're going to make this $200.
right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it makes me feel old. I look at my old Jack's ticket stubs,
Right.
and they're like $12
Right.
to see like Lamb of God, and I'm like, yeah, that would be like a $400 ticket now.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Again, old guy talk. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I was going to say, continue on about the new podcast. I'm also trying to review. I've been reviewing the first records of all the bands that are getting tributed at this show. So I did the first Ramones record, the first Deftones record, the
Right.
first Primus record.
Right.
And then I've also been trying to go through and pick out movies that I think people that would enjoy this lineup might also like watching these movies lead up to it. I let off with 2 Ramones movies. With,
Rock and Roll High School. And,
Rock and Roll High School from, I believe, 1978. And then Pet Cemetery,
Yep.
10 years later, 1989.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Pet Cemetery is a winner. Always a winner.
So, yeah. So I think that's a good, really kind of conversation about, hopefully, this is getting people excited about Saturday, February 28th.
Friday.
Friday. That's why I looked at you. I knew I was going to do something like
Good
that.
catch.
You can do both days.
Yeah, we'll turn it into a weekend. We'll just switch sets. So we'll do the Deftones songs on Saturday. They can do Primus on Saturday. Don't think I won't, Greg, because we might be opening the show with a Deftones song.
Saturday, you get in if you can stump Mikey and me on a movie quote from the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, that would be fun. You definitely do that.
And we'll definitely be here.
I'm
So
gonna get
awesome.
So if you guys want to like bring up more band members and maybe do a little bit of follow up, I
Sure.
mean, sometimes people like to hear that, right? Like your
That'd be
thoughts
awesome.
on the show or any anxiety you have before the show, or
Yeah, no,
if
that'd
you're
be great.
feeling especially great before the show, like all of that makes, usually good conversation. So we'd love to invite you back.
I'm hoping we feel great before the show.
Exactly.
I don't want to not. If we're anxious, then I got more concerns. So we should be feeling good. So, no, this is a great place. I mean, like I said, I've only been here, I think twice at this point, but it's awesome. The setup's really good, and I hope this place thrives because it's an awesome spot. So you guys have something really cool here.
Thanks. And look, we agree. The boss man just heard all of that, and I don't know what that means for him. He didn't flinch the entire time. Like that was a plug for more money. I don't know. He did not even
More
budge.
Started working on day
Jesus.
jobs. So. But I agree with them and thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Any other things to announce?
Very
Yeah,
much. Looking
absolutely.
forward to the show.
And
Yeah,
we'll
it's gonna be
follow
good.
up on Friday.
Absolutely. Very
Yeah,
much. Looking
absolutely.
forward to the show.
And
It's
we'll
gonna be
follow
good.
up on Friday.
Absolutely.
Friday the 28th.
We'll let the other crazy animals in these bands in here, and God knows what they'll say.
Love it.
So I don't know if they're going to be as loud as Greg,
we
but they'll
should.
be
Actually,
close.
yeah,
So
we
we'll get them
should.
close.
Excellent.
You think I'm bad? Wait till you meet the rest of
Awesome. Well,
them.
Thank you guys.
yep.
Thank you.
All right. Right on.
See ya.